All right, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about the A7 III once again. And today we're going to be going over just the best photo settings that I've found while using this camera for the past year and a half, 2 years. All right, just to get into your photo settings, you're going to have to click Menu, scroll up to the top, and make sure that the camera 1 is selected. And on this screen, you're going to see a bunch of options. The top option going to be File Format. And for this, I shoot in RAW. When you shoot in RAW, all it does is it's just collecting more metadata in the photo to allow you to go in and edit it later. As we scroll down below, the next thing is file type, and I shoot in compressed. There's compressed and uncompressed, and basically all that is gonna give you a bigger file size if you shoot in uncompressed, where compressed is a smaller file size. Supposedly, it gives you better quality in your images, but I really haven't noticed a difference between shooting between these, so I just choose to go with the smaller file size and shoot in compressed. The next couple deal with JPEG images, which again, I don't shoot in JPEG, I shoot in RAW. So we're just gonna skip over those. Aspect ratio, again, this is personal preference. I shoot in 3:2. Some people prefer 9:16. 9:16 is 1080 by 1920, and that's just more of like a generic landscape photo aspect ratio. But because I can always crop when I go in and do my edits in post, I always just shoot in 3:2, so I get more of the file size and more room to crop where I want to. Next, we have APS-C mode. I really won't be covering that here just because I have already made a video about it. It basically deals with what lenses you're using, but if you want to hear more about that, please go check out that video. On page 2, I don't really change much on this screen. I do change color space. Instead of RGB, I choose Adobe RGB because that's the software that I'm editing all of my photos on. I figure if I'm editing it on that software, why not shoot in what's most compatible with that software. The next page just deals with more about like what memory card slot you're using. I kind of change that when I need to, but for the most part, I don't really change any of this stuff. I shoot in continuous shooting. That's just my preference, and basically all that is just whenever you hear cameras at sports games go, that's all that is. That's continuous shooting, and I just prefer that, especially when I'm shooting portraits or something where there's a lot of movement going on. Landscapes, mountains aren't really moving that much, so I don't really use that when I'm shooting landscapes, but most everything else, that's what I use. Page 4, I don't think I've ever actually used this page, so we're just gonna skip over it. Page 5 deals with focus, and this all mostly depends on what lens you're using. The one thing that I do change in this is focus area, which I always shoot wide no matter what I'm shooting. It's just gonna give you a wider focus of the image. And that's just kind of what I've always used, and it's just what works for me the best. Page 6, 7, and 8 just also continue dealing with your autofocus settings. Most of these I don't really mess with. I don't think any of these settings are really gonna make a difference in quality of photo. Honestly, like standard, whatever your camera came with, I just kind of use that. The next 2 pages deal with exposure. And because I am always shooting in M mode, I never go in here to change any of my settings. And also, I highly recommend that every photographer learns how to shoot in M mode and learns every single setting of their camera and how to use it on the fly. You can change your settings, change your exposure, change your ISO, change your aperture, and you don't have to go in here and change settings. Shameless plug, but I also have a video about learning M mode, and if you want to check that out, there's a ton of info in that video. Page 11 deals with flash. I don't do flash photography, some photographers do, and because I've never really used it, I don't feel comfortable really giving you guys advice about it, so we're just gonna skip this page also. The next page, the top one, is white balance, and that is really big. I always shoot in auto no matter what I'm doing because I can always go in and correct that post. It's not something that needs to be 100% right in camera, and I've never had a problem with that. Some people do go in and change their creative profile and picture profile, and what that does, you can add a little bit of contrast and saturation to your photos. I don't really do that. Like I've said before, I just prefer to do that 100% post. The next page is focus assist, and I don't really change much in this. I will say, if you go down to the bottom and go to peaking settings, this is super helpful when you're shooting in manual focus. Basically what it does, it's gonna give you kind of like little dots that will show you what is in focus while you're shooting. So I highly recommend playing around with your peaking settings. Oh, and then before I forget, also change autofocus to on and manual focus assist to on. And then the last page Again, I don't really do much. I just go with whatever was standard on the camera. But that's pretty much it for photo settings. If you had any other questions come up, please don't hesitate to ask. Just leave it down in the comments below and I will definitely respond. Next week's video, I'm gonna be talking about video settings, so definitely be on the lookout for that. But anyways, thank you guys for watching and I will see you in the next video. Peace.